Hello guys, in this session we are going to see on how to create your first GitHub account, set up your Git, install Git, and also push your first code to GitHub. So let's get into it. Come to github.com, then click on sign up. Once you click on sign up, just wait for the next step. Then type your email here. In my case, I'm going to use this email address. So let's go and create this email. Create that and then click on continue. Then you have to set up a password that you can use. Then here choose a name that we can use, and we can say this name, we can call this prog skill 1. Then we click on continue. Make sure that you set up a Gmail or a username that is easy to remember. You can either choose to get updates on GitHub, or you can either continue without that. But I would like to receive announcements and also updates. So I'm going to tick that and then click on continue. Once I'm here, I'm going to verify if I'm a robot or something like that. So let's verify that. Click on verify. Once you click on verify, wait for it to verify. So we are going to face this, match this angle. So we are going to do it like this and make sure it faces that direction. Then we are going to submit. And we can see we are ready to go. So we are going to click on create account. Now we are going to type. I can either choose to save, or I can either choose to remember. Now go to your email that you have created that GitHub account with, then enter the code that has been sent here. So I'm going to go here, then I'm going to type this code. I can either decide to copy, or I can either decide to open with GitHub, depending with your choice. So I'm going to type that one here, and as you can see, that code it will automatically authenticate. Now here you are going to choose whatever thing that you want to choose. How many team members do you have? I can just say if it's an individual account, or if I'm intending to do it as a teacher or a student, I can either do that, just me, then click on student, also click on continue. Then also you can decide to skip the personalization, but for now I want to set up everything. I want to get every single feature that comes with GitHub, two-factor authentication, everything, client apps, everything like team administration, and everything to do with community. All the features that I need, I'm going to select that. So here you are going to choose if you want to continue with GitHub Pro or GitHub Free. So click on GitHub for free. For now we continue with the free account, and then there we go, we have our first GitHub account. So we have already now created that GitHub account. The next step is now creating that code and pushing that code to GitHub. So one thing that we need to know is that we push code to repositories. You can call these folders that we set here to store our code. So let's create our first repository. We can just create an empty repository and call this test. We can decide to call this test repo. Then we can either decide to add some description, and also make sure your repo is either public or private. I want mine to be public because anyone can use this code from here. Then I'm going to click on create. In case you want to create the readme from GitHub, you can create that readme, but you can also ignore and then create this readme directly in your code. So I'm going to click on create repository. Then we have our first repository created. I want us to note these commands down here. So these commands, we are going to follow these commands. Then after we follow these commands, we are going now to push our code to GitHub. Let's go to our Visual Studio Code and create a sample code like index.html and say this is our first code, and generate some random code and say hello world. Like that. This is my first repo, like that. So in here, now you want to make sure that we push this code to GitHub. One way that we can directly push our code through here is by use of the terminal. This terminal, we can click this terminal here, then click on new terminal, and then we have our terminal. But before we push our code to GitHub, we can make sure that our Visual Studio Code understands who we are. If you had installed Git, this is how to push that code to GitHub. So let's follow this documentation here and just set up the username in case you had installed Git. But in case you had not installed Git, let's see how we install Git. Just go to Git installation. Git installation. In my case, I'm using Windows, so I'm going to click on this one. Then I'm going to choose the Git that I want. I can either choose the portable one or the standalone. I'm going to choose the standalone. Then after choosing the standalone, I'm going to now save and you download. Once you download that, you can just go to your machine, then go to your downloads in whatever folder you have saved your Git to. Then just click this Git here. It's the file that we have downloaded. Once we click on yes, then now just read through the instructions, then click on next. Make sure that everything is here. Click on next. Make sure that you select. You can just leave everything by default. Make sure that you can just leave everything by default. Then you click on install once you are done. Because mine had installed it, I don't need to install it again. So now we have installed Git. The next thing that we need to do is complete our setup from GitHub, from our Visual Studio Code. We want to make sure that our Visual Studio Code understands who we are. Because you have installed Git, let's go back to the documentation and then set up our username. To set our username, we can just copy that user.name, then we have to type our name here. That is progskill 1. That is our username. Then we set that as our username. The next thing that we need to do is set our email. This one, email here. So we are going to just copy that. Then we set our email like that, and then we said our email is progskill1@gmail.com. and we are going to set that code like that. Now once we are done setting up that, now we can go and push our code to GitHub. How do we push our code to GitHub? Remember, we have created a GitHub repo and then it has these guides. So let's make sure that we go with the second command, that is the git init, initialize that repository. Then after that, we do the second command, that is the git add dot means all. And after git add all, we are going to create git commit, then flag m for message. Then we are going to say first commit, Once we are done with our first commit, so we are going to copy this one here, git remote add origin. We are going to connect our code in our Visual Studio Code to that remote repository. So in this git remote, we are going to instead just copy this and then copy that. So this means git remote add origin will connect to this repo. We are going to do git push origin, then you specify your branch, either master, either main branch, or your dev branch. It doesn't matter the branch. Now you have to set, but first you have to set the branch. Now we can just push this to our master branch. Once we push our code to GitHub, then we'll be able to see our code to GitHub. So thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.